listening to the Cycling Podcast Féminin, brought to you by iwoca. Flexible loans built for small businesses. Join 50,000 customers taking on life's twists and turns and scaling new heights with iwoca. If you run a business, find out more at iwoca.co.uk. That's iwoca.co.uk.
Hello, my name's Richard Moore. I'm with Rose Manley.
Hello, Richard. I'm trying to be quick.
And Orla Chennaoui.
Hello, both.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. We don't have to be that abrupt and quick. There is a bit of time pressure.
We have a lot to talk about. Hurry up.
Okay, can you turn it up, Orla, please? Thank you. Welcome to the September episode of the Cycling Podcast Féminin. In this episode, we will have it'll be a bumper episode because we've got Lizzy Banks' Giro Rosa diary, which is a bit of, well, she did a diary for us last year. It was brilliant. That was released for friends of the podcast. We're including it in the regular Cycling Podcast Féminin this month. It's a great listen. So that's coming up. But before then, we've got the World Championship road race and time trial to talk about briefly, and the Giro Rosa as well. But we will try and rattle on, won't we? Both of you.
Yes.
We never dilly-dally unnecessarily, do we?
Say things.
We never go off on a tangent.
No. How are you both?
Oh, you want us to speed up and then you ask an open question like that?
Well, I feel.
Do you know
like
what I always
to
think
ask that
though?
question,
If you want to if you want to go off at a tangent, it's fine because people can always put you on 1.5 speed, can't they?
Yeah, that's
true.
true.
If you want to speed through this bit, then do. But if you want to know how we are, then I'm well. Thank you very much. How are you, Rose?
I'm good, thank you. Very well.
There you go. Done.
Just talk at
Box
at
ticked.
1.5 speed. That'll really that'll help.
I do. That's my problem. How are you, Richard? We don't ask you.
Yeah, I'm okay, thank you. Just back from the Tour de France at the start of the week, and we'd all, in normal circumstances, have been there, wouldn't we? But unfortunately, this year was a bit different, so we weren't all there. Were there benefits to that? I mean, the Giro Rosa was on, and we'll talk about that in a bit, and we could watch bits of it. Did you find? I found one thing about being at the Tour and not having the usual access to riders meant that I actually watched the race a lot more closely than I would normally.
That's very
true. There was more time to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to get to sit and watch it, but you don't get what I can't believe is when you're watching the broadcast, how after the race finishes, how quickly everything finishes. Well, when you're there and the race finishes, it just goes on forever. There's all the interviews and there's the podiums and then they drag on and then there's loads of clearing up and you don't actually leave the top of a mountain for about 4 or 5 hours after the race is finished. So every time when it was just race finished, there's the interview off air, I felt a bit kind of bereft.
Well, there was always the breakaway with Orla Chennaoui on Eurosport.
It didn't come straight after, Richard. We'll see how much you were watching.
Oh, very good. Brownie points for Rose.
Yes.
I like it.
It doesn't follow straight away.
I enjoyed parts of it. I did like taking a step back from it, and I felt that I was able to pay a lot more attention to the racing, which sounds ridiculous, but all those things that you're talking about, Rose, in terms of getting off a mountain and trying to get dinner and travelling around and circumnavigating road closures to get to a race at the start means that so much of your time and mental energy is eaten up by the time you get to start the race. And then while the racing's on, you've got to work out where you can get your lunch. You've got to work out where the toilets are that day. You've got to manoeuvre through the police checks every time that you want to go anywhere. And so you're watching it on your phone, but you're always just half watching. So I did really enjoy sitting down and watching the race and also paying attention, I think, to other issues, wider issues, concussion, whatever. And there was much more of a chance to pay attention to what was happening at the Giro Rosa. I just missed the crack, though. I can't lie. I mean, all of that was great, but I just love being there and I love getting under the skin of the racing. And, I love my little arguments with the gendarmerie and,
It would have been different, actually. Had the Giro Rosa been live, it would have been different, wouldn't it? Because then we could have watched both and that would have been great.
Very
but
true.
We wouldn't have got more out of, there was no more Giro Rosa coverage than what you can watch after the Tour de France finished anyway.
We can try and have a bit of crack now if you like, make up for that.
Yeah, but only in a time-limited way.
Don't look so enthusiastic. Goodness me. Never seen you look less enthusiastic. Anyway, we all watched the women's road race today, the World Championships. Maybe that's why. Maybe if we're a bit flat, it's maybe because it wasn't the spectacle that we would have liked. I don't think. I think we're all a bit. I don't know. It was just a bit predictable, wasn't it? I don't know
if it was predictable. Well, it was predictable from 40 kilometres out, I guess. But I don't think anybody would have said, Anna van der Breggen was nailed on to win it. But we have been so overwhelmingly spoilt with brilliant racing action since the season restart. I mean, it has really given me a fire in my belly, and I've been just falling in love with women's racing in particular all over again. And so the contrast, I think, is all the more remarkable this year because of the kind of aggressive, unpredictable, sparky racing that we've had. Today was a bit of a throwback. Is that fair? I mean, it was pretty much how she won the 2018 World Championship. But yeah, there was none of the glued to your seat until the bitter end, was there?
It was totally deserved, though, we should say. It's a,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
But
I think also,
not taking anything away from her.
We also get kind of spoilt with these long-range solo attacks, don't we, in women's cycling? That actually in men's cycling, if someone went off 40 kilometres from the end and soloed all the way, it would be like this remarkable performance. It would be, but, Annemiek van Vleuten and Anna van der Breggen both do these mega solo attacks, and that is how they win. And I think we kind of get used to seeing them all the time. Whereas actually in the men's side of cycling, you really don't. When someone does it, like, Remco Evenepoel does it, everyone's like, wow, the new Eddie Merckx, blah, blah, blah. We get spoilt that way.
Yeah, it's become a trend at the World Championship the last 3 years, hasn't it? Partly because of the strong Dutch team. But we'll get on to that. Do you have a news roundup for us, Orla?
I do. I just want very briefly to say something about the Worlds. While we're saying that the last 40 kilometres weren't the most exciting, it's about as good an argument as you can have for broadcasting the entirety of a women's race, because if you only saw the last 50 minutes of that, you would think it was the dullest sport imaginable, and you would have missed all the different attacks and different bits of action throughout the race. So, more live coverage all the way through. Thank you very much. Right, to the news roundup then. Races have been like London buses on steroids. We wait for months and then we get run over by them. It seems a shame to be cramming them all into one roundup when we've had such spectacular racing, as I said. But here we go. The Grand Prix de Plouay. That's where we start, isn't it?
Yeah, that is where we start.
That's where we start, yeah. Because we did Strade Bianche last month. Well, it was won in sensational fashion by the rider who was the subject of a lot of chat in an earlier episode as to whether she could win again, Lizzy Banks. It was a 2-up sprint between the two Lizzies, with Lizzy Banks finishing second, with Chiara Consoni of Valcar Travel and Service winning the sprint behind for third. The Europeans then, Anna van der Breggen won the European time trial with her compatriot Annemiek van Vleuten filling one of the few gaps in her palmares for the road race. It looked like it wasn't going to be a tough enough course for the world champion, which actually made the win all the more remarkable for me, I thought. Elise Longo-Borghini finished in second, with Kasia Niewiadoma in third. Chantal van der Broek Black finished fourth after looking like she could have been the Dutch card for the day, but in the end they finished with 4 riders in the top 10. Holy moly. In a phenomenal few days of racing, we then had La Course by the Tour de France, which finished with one of the most beautiful telepathic displays of teamwork I can remember seeing ever, really. If any of your friends don't understand how cycling can be a team sport, show them this finale where Elise Longo-Borghini played a blinder in the final sprint for her Trek Segafredo teammate Lizzy Banks once again, who took the win, with Marianne Vos, the defending champion, finishing in second and Demi Vollering in third. On to the Giro Rosa, and it was a course that I actually really liked this year. No alpine passes, but shorter, more aggressive, punchier climbs, which I think suits a wider range of riders. Anna van der Breggen took the overall win, Kasia Niewiadoma in second, and Elise Longo-Borghini in third. Stage wins went to Trek Segafredo for the opening team time trial, and that meant that Longo-Borghini wore the leader's pink jersey for the first time in her career. Van Vleuten took a stage, Marianne Vos took 3, Lizzy Banks took the longest stage of this year's race, as she did last year, even though she says she doesn't like these extra long stages. Lotte Kopecky took a stage. She's since gone on to become Belgian champion. Elise Longo-Borghini also a stage. And Evita Music of FDJ, a fantastic first professional win for the 21-year-old French woman. There was an horrific crash on stage 7 of the Giro, which took out Annemiek van Vleuten and Amanda Spratt. Both of them needed hospital treatment. Spratt damaged her shoulder, suffered concussion, and that ruled her out of the Worlds, where she had finished 3rd last year. And van Vleuten fractured her wrist, which we assumed would have ruled her out too. But she raced, of course, didn't she, with a brace, which caused quite a bit of pre-race controversy. We might get onto that, we might not. On to the Worlds, though, and Anna van der Breggen has amassed the full range of world titles now and then some, adding the time trial to, her road race victory of 2018 and, of course, her second road race victory today. But Marlon Reusser of Switzerland finished in 2nd. She rides for Équipe Paule Ka this year, and that's one of the biggest results of her career. And it was a Dutch 1-3 with Ellen van Dijk, who'd only stepped in for the injured Van Vleuten, finishing in 3rd. And of course, Van der Breggen doubled up at the Worlds after time trialling for 32 kilometres on Thursday. She did the same for 40 kilometres to take the road title and to repeat her exploits of 2018 in a very similar fashion. Even with her fractured wrist, Annemiek van Vleuten still finished in 2nd and Elise Longo-Borghini in 3rd. Now, here's a fun fact for you. The Netherlands have now won 7 of the 8 gold medals at the Worlds since 2017.
Wow.
Boom. Mic drop. It would be a mic drop, except there's one last PS on the news roundup, which is, of course, that the Giro Rosa has been downgraded for next year. It is no longer a women's world tour race. As of recording, there still hasn't been an explanation given, but obviously a lot of speculation that it could be to do with the fact that women's world tour races are now supposed to have 45 minutes of live broadcast or live streaming. The Giro Rosa very obviously didn't. It kind of blamed Corona, really. A lot of people didn't buy that. And regardless, now it has been the Women's Grand Tour has now been downgraded for 2021.
You are listening to the Cycling Podcast Féminin, brought to you by iwoca. Flexible loans built for small businesses. Join 50,000 customers taking on life's twists and turns and scaling new heights with iwoca. If you run a business, find out more at iwoca.co.uk. That's iwoca.co.uk.
Thanks very much to iwoca, title sponsor to the Cycling Podcast and the Cycling Podcast Féminin. They've been with us since March and we're very glad to have them on board. If you run a small business or you know somebody who runs a small business and you want to know how iwoca can help you with a loan or a CIBL, that's a Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme loan, go to iwoca.co.uk. Lots of information there to help you if you run a small business. Now, as I said, we're watching the World Championship today. We're going to talk about that briefly, then go on to the Giro Rosa and do a Pedalers de Charme nominations as well. We're going to ask you, the listeners, to vote on that. But the World Championship road race today, the time trial was a couple of days ago. Anna van der Breggen won that. And actually, that ties into my Pedalers de Charme nomination. But I'll get onto that a bit later on. But I suppose her win was not overshadowed, but Chloe Dygert was the defending champion favourite and had a terrible crash, and she was up at the time. So a bit like at the Giro Rosa, where Anna van der Breggen perhaps won because Annemiek van Vleuten crashed out. Here too, although she's on the face of it, her results show an incredible season, but in those two races she's perhaps been a little bit lucky because she may well not have won the Giro Rosa and she may well not have won the time trial, but she did. And Chloe Dygert had this terrible laceration to the leg, although the people around her seem confident that she'll make a full recovery. It was pretty nasty. The road race today, a great course. It looked fantastic, very telegenic, some beautiful shots, but not the most exciting race. And the last 3 years, it has been a kind of story of which Dutch rider will win, Anna van der Breggen or Annemiek van Vleuten, and they did the old 1-2 today, didn't they? Do you think, Annemiek van Vleuten then won the sprint for a silver medal and she was competing with that broken wrist. Do you think she'll be happy that she did compete, I imagine that she wanted to defend her title in order to try and win the title again, or maybe just to turn up and defend it.
I'm always hesitant because I know that she listens to this, and I don't want her listening to it and being like, what utter rubbish. But, you know, I think given that the fact that she said she was going to race it and that created controversy, I think she'll be happy enough. Obviously, she would much rather win it, but showing that she could be competitive and that it was a strong race. You know, it's not like she hasn't been beaten by Anna van der Breggen before. It's not like it's going to be an absolute shocker. She would have, I think, been very confident with this course in particular. You know, she liked that it was really tough. But if you're not going to win with a fractured wrist, then, you know, second is quite good as well. I find the whole controversy around her really, I was going to say interesting. I'm not sure I did find it interesting. I find it a bit bizarre, I think. I completely understand other riders, and they have every right to have an opinion on whether another rider should be racing with a fractured wrist or not, you know, whether that creates any kind of a danger or not. But there were so many people commenting on Twitter about whether a World Championships was worth risking her health for. Like anybody would know, like any of us would know what a World Championships is worth. We've never won a World Championships, you know, and I just think we're so quick to think an opinion is valid because we can express it, you know, when we forget that these people actually read and pay attention. And yeah, I find it quite distasteful. The number of people who sort of ganged together and were a bit like, yeah, this is what she should be doing, and what she shouldn't be doing.
I didn't actually see any of that.
Did you not?
I didn't see any of that. But yeah, it's a nasty, well, a kind of unpleasant part of social media that people presume to know what's best for other people. And we don't know the medical opinion that she sought and was given. And
well, I mean, I think what, you know, we might not know exactly what it was, but there's no way that the Dutch team doctor will let her go and do something that will really damage her. I mean, I think that's also something that people are missing who are kind of objecting to it, is that she's already had surgery on this wrist. It's not just, you know, what we saw of this wrist going off at the funny angle. She doesn't still have that. She's gone home, she's had surgery on it. And actually, when it comes to sports bone breakages, as a professional athlete, she's dealing with the best people in the world for getting a quick recovery. It's not like me going out and breaking my wrist and then having to spend 8 weeks not doing anything. She's dealing with higher qualified doctors, and no one is going to let her get on that bike and defend that title if she's not okay to do that. Well,
she certainly put up a strong defence, didn't she?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that was clear. Yeah.
Go back though, Richard, to the fact that obviously Anna van der Breggen won it, and in such incredible fashion. Is it a wee bit unfair to say that she was lucky in both of them? She's won the last 3 races that she's done now, and those 3 races have been the Giro Rosa and 2 World Championships. That's quite, I mean, she should be buying a lottery card if that's luck.
Well, yeah. Not lucky, but you know, in other circumstances, you could have imagined that Annemiek van Vleuten would have won the Giro had she not crashed, and you could have imagined that Chloe Dygert would have won the time trial had she not crashed.
But then you could have thought that actually the Giro was more Marianne Vos's. You know, it's more her kind of territory this year, given the course that it was, than Van Vleuten's. You know, she was certainly a strong contender.
I think it would have been if the World Championships, Annemiek in the road race had been riding for a different team, then I think we might have seen a bit of a more exciting race, certainly, if not her doing well. But I think with a Dutch team, I mean, you could see when usually if your teammate attacks and gets a bit of distance, you kind of stop entirely. You don't then carry on riding full whack at the same speed as people who are on other teams trying to bridge across. You just stop. So I think that was kind of like, again, like Orla said, I don't want to speak for Annemiek at all, but to me that showed that she didn't want people to think that she couldn't have done more.
So here's a thought. Should we be separating the Dutch national team into individual nation states? Should we have the Republic of Anna van der Breggen taking on the Republic of Annemiek van Vleuten? Marianne Vos as some sort of a breakaway nation. That would be fun, wouldn't it? Or maybe that was just the Dutch National Championships, isn't it?
Well, just towns and cities.
But we do have to say, like, it wasn't just... The Dutch team were incredibly crazy strong, but the other teams... I didn't see them, like, putting in loads of effort to bring it back, to be honest. I don't feel like those other teams were really believing that they could bring Anna van der Breggen back and were really going for the win. I feel like there was this kind of concept of settling for silver and bronze very quickly in that race. I don't know what you guys thought.
Well, the problem was that in that group behind, you had, some countries with 2 or 3 riders, but it wasn't enough. I mean, the logistics or the practicalities of getting all these countries to combine, who's gonna benefit from that? One rider, one country is going to benefit from that in the end, and what's in it for the other countries? It's not going to happen. The problem is on these very challenging courses, and last year in Harrogate it perhaps wasn't that challenging, but Annemiek van Vleuten, in a quite ingenious way, made it hard. She went out on, very early and won it the only way she probably could have won it. But this year and in Innsbruck, they've been very, very selective courses. And on those kind of courses, it's always going to be, at the moment, Annemiek van Vleuten and Anna van der Breggen kind of fighting it out, or, proving unbeatable as a duo, really, on a course like today's. And unfortunately, it doesn't make for very exciting racing, because the other teams, the other riders, are all really up against it. And if you're Cecilia Ludwig or Kasia Niewiadoma or, I don't know, Audrey Cordon-Rago in that group behind, what do you do, really? What do you do? Especially when you've got. Well,
that's the only thing you can do. What Rosa suggested.
Yeah, but you've got Van Vleuten and Marianne Vos with you in that group, and Chantal Blaak as well. So there's really nothing you can do. And when you've got such a strong nation riding in that way, then it's a bit of a foregone conclusion, unfortunately, the racing.
How do you solve a problem like the Dutchies? It's impossible.
But it does surprise me that, I mean, for me, winning the World Championships means so much more than coming second or coming third at the World Championships. Like, you are the best. You are wearing the rainbow jersey for a year. Like, it's a step beyond, any other race. Coming first is great, but then people will remember your really gutsy second or your gutsy third. People remember it. But for me, like, if you had to test me on who came second and third in all of these World Championships,
who came second last year? Who came second in Innsbruck?
Chloe Dygert. Am I right?
Yeah.
I hope so.
Was it Chloe Dygert last year?
Yes, because Annemiek was ahead, and then Chloe did this really great attack, also solo attack.
No, it was Anna van der Breggen. She faded.
It was Anna van der Breggen with Amanda Spratt, and third. Chloe Dygert was fourth. I should have just let you continue with how that race panned out, Rose, because that was going to be fun. Tell us again how Chloe Dygert
I remembered a gutsy performance. The gutsy performance is what I remembered. I didn't remember the rest.
You
proved your point. You proved your point.
Yeah, I did prove my point.
Anna van der Breggen is going to retire at the end of next year. Next year is her last year as a rider. Yes,
I know. It seems very premature.
That's how to go out, though, isn't it? But then lots of people, everybody says they don't want to go out with a whimper. Go out at the top and of your choosing. And she's already chosen that. So it's, she's got something very concrete to jump off to, and something to work on in the next phase of her career. I think that's a really gutsy way to do it. I like that. Very
Eno-esque, retiring at the same age as, well, he retired on his 32nd birthday. She'll be 31 when she retires.
I was going to say, do you think we're at our peak? Do you think we should retire? Do you think this is as good as it gets?
Not yet, Orla. Not yet. We're getting there.
Okay.
We're still climbing the mountain.
We'll sign up for a few more seasons.
Listen, before we go into Giro Rosa, we, during the Tour de France, had a Peddler de Charme competition, as we always do. And there were several people, quite rightly, said that we should also have a Pedaleuse de Charme competition for the Giro Rosa. So we asked Stacey Snyder, who makes these beautiful cups and mugs, to make a Pédaleuse de Charme mug. She is doing that as we speak. And we are going to come up with 4 nominations and put them to a Twitter poll at the start of next week, when this episode comes out, to ask you to vote. Before we go on to Giro Rosa, maybe we should hear some nominations. We asked Lizzy Banks for some ideas as well, because although we were able to watch the highlights, as we'll hear in her diary, there's so much. And actually, you spoke to Ashleigh Moolman Pasio recently, Orla, and she was saying as well, there's so much of the racing that we didn't see and weren't able to see, and so many moments that we missed. So we asked Lizzy for a bit of help in coming up with some nominations for Pédaleuse de Charme.
I'm going to nominate Grace Brown for her hard work. It was a tough one to choose between her and Sarah Roy, because they both do the same job and they both do it really, really well. But yeah, whatever, I pick Grace. For her unrelenting work as a domestique for Annemiek. Both her and Sarah just always the workhorses, getting the bottles, doing everything for their leaders. And then to see everything come crashing down for them on stage 7 was just really, really gutting. But they continued to fight on and they didn't give up despite the challenges thrown at them. So yeah, that's why I nominate them. Someone could also nominate Novodolskaya for being in the break twice and crashed 3 times, 4 times. Oh, I don't know, whatever. But anyway, twice being like off the front and then crashing out of it. I actually didn't even really, I haven't seen the footage, but anyway, she kept trying. She went in the break on stage 5 and crashed out of it just before the finish. I think it was stage 5. And then, yeah, she like did it again and crashed out again. You could also nominate some of the Alley riders, because loads of the Alley riders did Ardèche and then came straight to whatever race, the Giro. So they did 16 days in a row with, well, 1 rest day, but it was like they had to get from the Ardèche down to southern Italy. Also, Anna van der Breggen, apparently after she took the jersey from Kasia on stage 8, she went over to Kasia and gave her a hug and said something to the ilk of, oh, we can go and have a party later, the pizza's on me. Oh yeah, another really cool thing, Abby May Parkinson and Lotte Kopecky saved 3 puppies from near certain death. So they were on the way back after stage 7 to the hotel, and then they saw this guy abandoning these 3 puppies, and they were like, what are you doing, are these your dogs? And yeah, he said no, they're your dogs now. And then he just like drove off, basically, like left a bag of food and drove off. So they like scooped up these 3 dogs and took the food and rehomed them.
Okay, so some food for thought there from Lizzy Banks. My nomination was always going to be Anna van der Breggen, because I thought the way that she dealt with inheriting the pink jersey after... Well, she didn't inherit the pink jersey. It went to Kasia Niewiadoma initially. Then she took it from her, and the way that she went and spoke to her, this was captured on camera, I thought was reflected very well on her. And also, it was partly because of the circumstances of her winning the Giro Rosa, I suppose. I felt there was that kind of that question hanging over it. Would Annemiek van Vleuten have won it? Probably, given the lead that she had. And so my consolation prize to Anna van der Breggen, not that she needs it now.
Has she not won enough, Richard, really?
I know, it feels ridiculous.
Richard.
It feels ridiculous.
One of Stacey's beautiful
I'm going to stick
mugs.
with it. Even while talking myself out of it, I'm going to stick with it. Anna van der Breggen.
To make up for the magnificent way you have won the last 3 phenomenally difficult races, I'm going to give you a pat on the back, love, and a Pédaleuse de Charme title. Deary dear.
Okay, this is a voice from the future. After recording this episode and after our chat about Pédaleuse de Charme, I reflected that I hadn't given enough credit to Elise Longo-Borghini. But Longo-Borghini deserves credit for not giving up in the road race. She eventually got a bronze medal, of course, and she always rides in a very honest way. Also for her ride at the Giro Rosa, where she won her first ever stage. I was surprised to hear that. But I've also been struck in the last few weeks by what she's been saying about Italy and wanting to give her country something to celebrate after it was so hard hit in the first coronavirus outbreak in the spring. So Longoborghini is my nomination for Pedalers de Charme. Sorry, Anna van der Breggen, but you've always got those 2 rainbow jerseys.
I have to go for the puppies. I just have to. I'm going to go for Abby May Parkinson and Lotte Kopecky, because who doesn't love a good old puppy rescue? Seriously. My daughter would never forgive me for that if I didn't go for them. They get my vote for sure.
Well, I'm going to go for a slightly more racing one. As Lizzy Banks said, Maria Novolodskaya, who's a 21-year-old rider for Kogias Metla Look. That's a lot of words. People remember her because stage 6, she went on the break, a solo attack, and she was 4K from the finish. Maybe this should be not Pedalers de Charme, but Pedalers de...
It's too late. Stacey's got the commission.
Malheur? Is that misfortune?
Malheur.
Come on, French
Malheur
people
is
over
like
there.
misfortune.
Malheur,
yeah.
okay. Maybe she should be Pedalers de Malheur because she slid out on a corner with 4K to go. She had a 30-second lead, and that just completely... She only got back on her bike when the pack caught up with her. And you're saying, this is not Pedalers de Charme, but can I add that the next day she went on a really long-range attack on stage 7, so she's a gutsy rider. But then also I was looking on her Instagram, translating some Cyrillic, as you do on Instagram, and I found out that her DS, Valentina Scandalara, who people remember as a rider just a few years ago for Silence and Orica, had got her a new bike after this happened, and it was in fact her Pinarello bike with stabilisers on it. To stop her from sliding out on the corners. And she took loads of lovely pictures smiling with these stupid stabilisers stuck out the side. And I thought, if you can be a good sport like that and, you know, that great chance of winning such a massive thing as a stage of the Giro Rosa, that can be taken away from you and you can still cope with your DSs winding you up and buying you a bike with stabilisers on, then you're a Pedalers de Charme.
I think it's nailed on. I mean, Anna van der Breggen doesn't have a chance against that.
Not with you fighting her corner, Richard.
And puppies.
Well, yeah, there were a few other suggestions there from Lizzie. Grace Brown, she mentioned as well as a great domestique. But we'll put our nominations to a Twitter poll, and the lucky winner will get this beautiful mug. Any other thoughts on the Giro Rosa?
Wait, what do we do if Lotte Kopecky and Abby May Parkinson win?
I think we might have to have them as separate candidates for it, don't you think?
Ooh.
But then who...
Controversial.
But then...
We have to find out who did more with the puppies.
We haven't thought this through, have we?
No.
If they win, I'll take the mug. There we go, done.
Oh, you're so gracious.
I know, and I'll take one for the team.
I mean, what before we go to Lizzy Banks and hear her diary, what did we make of the Giro Rosa? You mentioned the course, Orla, that you were a big fan of it. I mean, it's funny watching it because, of course, the Giro Rosa has nothing to do with the Giro d'Italia. It looks very different. It looks, you know, a lot of the finishes were in fiddly little places in villages on pretty rough roads, and you know that was a factor in the crash, I think, and it looked pretty rough and ready in places. And there's been a bit of rider reaction and general reaction against some aspects of it, including the TV coverage, of course, and that might also be a factor in its demotion from Women's World Tour status next year. But you know, what did you think watching what we could watch on telly?
I thought it looked like a really good race, you know, and it's... I don't want to bring in a negative, you know, but it looked like the kind of race I would have absolutely bloomin' loved to have watched all the way through, because when you hear the rider accounts of what we missed, it sounds like the absolute best of the kind of racing that we've had since the restart, you know. Like I say, I do like that kind of a course, and I prefer it at the minute just because when it tends to be those steeper, longer, tougher climbs. It's so selective with the range of talents and experience and abilities at the minute in women's racing that we don't get the variety, we don't get that unpredictability. And so I do like a course like this that just suits so many people, you know, that anyone in the top 10 could be taking a stage on any given day.
Those longer stages, I mean, we saw it at the Tour de France. When it's a really long stage, teams just ride it so much more cagey anyway. So you're really only getting the same amount of kilometres of really exciting racing. But you're just getting this really long build up to it, and everyone is, you know, riding in a very defensive way and trying to save their energy and save their legs.
I would say just briefly about the coverage, what I was really, really encouraged by was the amount of seemingly genuine annoyance on social media that people weren't able to watch it, you know. And I think women's cycling has suffered an awful lot from tokenism over the years, and you can sort of see through that quite easily. I think there was a genuine demand for being able to watch this race, and it's one thing that Ashleigh Moolman Pasio brought up as well, actually, whenever I had my chat with her, which I think we're going to hear, aren't we? But she said the same, that she felt like that we've maybe turned a bit of a corner with that, you know, that there is finally a realisation that what we've been shouting about for the last couple of years is indeed true, and we're not just saying it to tick a female box, you know, we're saying it because it's brilliant racing and it's worth watching, and I think that was really encouraging.
Shall we hear a little bit from Ashleigh Moolman Pasio now?
Yeah, so I think the Giro was just as hard as it has been in the past, but hard in a different way. So yeah, we didn't necessarily have the proper alpine passes, but we had a fair amount of climbing and a lot of short, sort of steep climbs towards the finish. So yeah, it was pretty explosive, you know, the finishes in terms of these short, steep climbs. But yeah, I think it was a really exciting Giro. I mean, really unfortunate, obviously, with the big crash with Annemiek. But I think at the end of the day, it was a really exciting Giro, except no one could see it. So that was the big problem.
Actually, we're laughing. That is a huge except, isn't it? It's a huge caveat, because obviously the problem with not having live racing coverage is that we're sort of restricted to the last hour of racing as highlights, but that's not necessarily the most exciting part of the race. And I think we had all hoped that things would move forward this year. That was a massive disappointment, wasn't it?
It was indeed. I mean, yeah, we all hoped to have at least a certain amount of live coverage for each race, or at least that was, you know, what we were led to believe with the introduction of the World Tour. And I suppose, you know, the COVID has been something really huge for the World Tour have to handle. I think it's also often being used as a bit of an excuse these days. And I do appreciate that it's a tough year, and that just pulling off a race, you know, is quite a tall order. But, you know, I think we're tired of excuses as, you know, being the women's peloton, and I think it's just really a shame because the real story, or the full story, is never really told, just as you said, you know. So people might see the final couple of minutes and how the race ended, but there's a lot that happens in between, you know, the start line and the finish line, and so I just think that the full story hasn't been told. But, you know, having said that, I was really grateful to see the number of really good photographers, really great world-class photographers that were at the race. So at least, you know, that was just one good thing to see, that we're attracting, you know, these really great photographers, that if the race is live, at least the story is being told through the photographs and, you know, through cycling tips and cycling news and all of these channels. But it's year 2020 and it's just not good enough anymore that we don't have live coverage.
We can only hope, I guess, that it felt to me, at least from the outside, that it felt like a lot more demand and a lot more upset this year that it wasn't broadcast live, and hopefully you would imagine some of that will filter through and actually be listened to, because, you know, it's always at the same time as the Tour de France, but I felt like this year there was more annoyance about the fact that we couldn't watch it at the same time as the Tour.
I agree. For the first time in my career, I've really seen that come through quite strongly on the social media, that fans are getting actually quite annoyed. Like, they're getting antsy about it. It's like, we want to watch the racing. Where is it? So I think that's a good thing for the sport. It's one thing for us as athletes to be speaking out, but I think it's even bigger impact if fans are getting annoyed and making it vocal, because of course, you know, the organisers of the Giro did have to kind of give some kind of an answer, you know, in the media. So it does show that it does place pressure on them.
The Cycling Podcast Féminin is supported by Science in Sport. Science in Sport fueled by science.
Thank you very much to Science and Sport for their support of the Cycling Podcast. If you want 25% off all your Science and Sport products, go to scienceandsport.com and enter the code, Rose.
SISCP25, SISCP25, CP25, CP25, SISCP25.
Wow, that was a full performance
Well, you know
there.
what?
Arms moving, eyes closed,
Pavarotti-esque.
everything.
Well, you know what, Richard? I actually got sick. I got sick of listening to you guys at the Tour de France butchering it and just coming out with like the most inane, boring ways. And like Francois couldn't even remember the code. I was just like, I'm not having this anymore.
Terrible. The lack of professionalism was shocking,
it is
wasn't it?
Taking
shocking.
it back again.
Like, you know, so then I thought, well, yeah, exactly. We're reclaiming it. We're like, if you want this code, here, have it. Have it with jazz hands. Have it.
Sparkly.
Can you tell
That
it's
was
a Saturday
fantastic.
night, listeners?
Before the break, we heard from Ashleigh Moolman Pasio. We'll hear a bit more from her next month, won't we, Orla?
Yeah, we will indeed. We had a lot to talk about. Really, really interesting chat from Ashleigh, as it always is. But she spoke with such passion about her work to try to get more African riders to the elite level. It was really interesting, and talking about the complexities and how it fits in with the global anti-racism movement at the moment and Black Lives Matter. And yeah, it was a really good chat. So we'll hear more from that next month, just because there isn't room for it all, and we want to give it the airtime it deserves.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to hear from Lizzy Banks in a moment. Her Giro Rosa diary. It's a great listen. As I say, she kept the diary for us last year. That was released for friends of the podcast. This is part of the Cycling Podcast Féminin, hence this bumper episode. Shall we just go to Lizzy now, ladies?
Let's do it, huh?
Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to the 2020 Giro Rosa. I'm Lizzy Banks from Équipe Paule Ka, and I'm back again for the 2020 edition of my Giro Rosa audio diaries. Last year was a surprisingly successful set of audio diaries, so Richard's invited me back again. I'm hoping that this year is going to be as successful, but who knows? It's already been a rocky start to the Giro, because we travelled down here with 6 riders, with Clara Koppenberg as our GC rider. And she very, very recently developed a problem with her foot. She had bursitis in her foot, which then became infected, and she travelled home yesterday. We're now one day out from the Giro, so it's Thursday. She travelled home yesterday, and we brought in our reserve rider, Niamh Fishblack. So, yeah, what a rollercoaster of a ride already before we've even started. It's funny because now we are having to completely change our plans before we even started the race. But in a way, I think it's kind of exciting because we have absolutely nothing to lose now. We have 6 strong riders who can take opportunities on every single stage. And I think that's a really nice way to race. And it's, you know, kind of like the way we like to race. We're a bunch of nobodies, you know, we're not the ones who are expected to be carrying the jersey, and whatever happens, we can't really lose. So we're down in Tuscany, in a town called Grosseto. It's going to be hellishly fast tomorrow. I think 55, 56k an hour will be the winning time. That's my bet. Yeah, I mean, we have 4 strong TTers and, 5 strong riders, and then we have 1 climber, really. And we're missing one of our TT powerhouses, which is Leah Thomas, who is busy preparing for the World Championships instead. What with the Giro being in September and finishing only 4 days before World Championships time trial, it's packed in pretty closely. It's definitely a loss for our team in the team time trial, and the whole of the race, not having Leah here, but we're going to do the best we can, and we feel like we have a chance of getting a result, but, you know, I never want to speak too soon, and you just don't know what can happen in team time trial. And we felt like we had the worst team time trial of our lives last year, and we managed to take second. Yeah, we hope that we'll be up there, so we'll see. We're just about to go to bed now. I'm rooming with Emma Norsgaard Jorgensen. I can't really say your name. Emma, can you say your name for me?
Emma Norsgaard Jorgensen.
There you go. Perfect. Don't ask me to repeat that, please. Anyway, I'm sure you'll hear more from Emma later in the
in the diary. I will interview her after her first stage win, and then again after her second one. Is that all right for you, Emma?
That's perfect.
Okay, you can interview me after my stage win. We can just swap roles. Okay,
That's a good idea.
Sure. All right, well, I better get to bed and yeah, I don't know, maybe eat some more carbs. I don't know, I've got a lot of racing coming up, but I'll catch up with you guys during, or maybe not during the middle of the race, during the stage sometime tomorrow. Well, the TTT is done and we're about to go to bed before stage 2. It was savage. I just can't describe how hard it is. It's like nothing else. You know, a time trial is hard, but a team time trial is so much harder because you go so much deeper than you think is possible or you know is possible, and every single person does, and every single person is so gone and so dead. But yeah, you just have to keep going because otherwise you're going to let all your teammates down. And we came 4th. It was, isn't that the hardest place to come? Yeah. We wanted to get on the podium. We're not going to lie. But I actually think that it was a pretty good result for us. I mean, we're a really small team and we came in and we set the fastest time when we came in. All the big teams still had to come in. And then we heard Canyon come in and we were like, oh God, have they beaten us? And then we heard we'd beaten Canyon and we were like, maybe we can get on the podium. And so we were waiting for each team to come in. Sunweb came in, we'd beaten them. CCC came in, we'd beaten them by a lot. And then there were still the 3 probably fastest teams to come in, Mitchelton, Bowles and Trek. And then Mitchelton came across the line and they beat us. And then Bowles came across the line and they beat us. We knew that on paper Trek had the fastest team, but you never know quite whether that's actually going to transpire when you get out on the road, because there's just so many different variables. And so I was waiting by the finish board and, you know, the seconds were ticking down, and then Trek took the win. I think we have to be happy with our performance. We were down to 5 riders after a very short time because we have one rider who's an amazing rider, but she's very, very light. So team time trial just isn't really her discipline. So, you know, we were riding in 5. We were missing Leia, our absolute TT powerhouse. Yeah, the other thing, actually, it was so windy today. So we'd done all our practice runs, and the practice runs, we'd just been flying along at like 55k an hour. And then on the way back on the tailwind section, we're coming along at almost 60. And then today, because it was so windy, we had kind of head cross on it's kind of a triangle. You had head cross on the first bit, head cross from the other side on the second bit, and then pretty much tailwind on the final straight. And because of the headwind, it really brought the speed down. And so I think the winning speed was 50.1 and ours was 49.9k an hour. So but yeah, we're prepping for stage 2 now. Tomorrow is really nasty. It's 130k, well, 124k and 7k of neutral. So 130k, 131k of just constantly twisting roads. I mean, there must be like 957 corners or something. And 2 Strade Bianche gravel sections. First one is 1.5k. The second one is the crucial one. It goes from 115 to 120k, so it's 5k long, it's up a steep climb, and then that's 10k from the finish. And the finish is a Marianne Vos style finish, but that climb is an Annemiek attacking, going solo style climb. But who knows if she'll want to do that far out, and can we get up the road before she does? So I guess those are the questions. I don't know what the team plan will be quite yet. Of course, we're going to try and take some opportunities, but it might be difficult on the first road stage when everybody wants to do it. So we're going to see what we get, and I will let you know. Good night. Okay, we are on our way home from stage 2, and it's pretty funny because we knew today was going to be really hard, and a couple of people put some interviews out there saying this isn't going to be a hard Giro, and we looked at the route and we're like, you're just so stupid. I mean, every day is just so solid. I mean, there's like not even an inch of flat in the whole 9 stages apart from the TTT. So yeah, basically the first 30 kilometers was just so hard that
you know, you just think, how the hell am I going to do another 100 kilometres after this? But it was a pretty good day. We had, basically, right at the beginning, 20k in, there was a really fast downhill and then a narrow section over a bridge and then right again. And Elise crashed, unfortunately, and came down. I don't know, what happened, Elise? Tell me what happened.
So I don't really know, but I think somebody braked in front of me, and I was a bit surprised, and I just crashed there. And hopefully nobody, I think, didn't crash behind me, so that was quite good for the others. I had some bruises, but it's only the skin, so it was alright. My bike was a bit broken, so I had to wait to change my bike and then go back on the road and just chase for like 5k's in the uphill. So it was quite hard, but it was okay.
So yeah, I could hear over the radio like Elise and Marlin had she didn't crash, she just dropped her chain and then obviously had to get back on again. It was a rubbish time to come back, but you just burn so many matches right at the beginning of the race, and you know, you've got it going through your head like, oh my god, I've got another 100 kilometers, so this is not good. But thankfully everything calmed down a bit, and I mean, it was still really hard because it was up and down all day, but there was kind of a lull in the middle of the race, which, you know, enabled everyone to eat and drink and kind of collect themselves. And then we wanted to attack in the end of the race from roughly 115 to 120 kilometres. There was a 5k savage gravel sector, and then from the end of there it was 10k's to the end of the race. And I mean, obviously what's going to happen, Annemiek's going to attack on the steep bit of the gravel sector and she's going to go solo. So how do we beat Annemiek? We get out ahead of her. So we tried really hard. We set off so many attacks. It just, yeah, Marlin would attack, Elise attacked, Neve attacked, I attacked. Nothing was getting away. Then, I don't know, maybe 10k's to the gravel sector. We'd just come down a downhill and then I just took a flyer and then got a gap, went out to 30 seconds, but then I got reeled back in just before the gravel sector, and then I used my last bit of energy once I was back in the group to get Mikayla back to the front of the group. She'd just been gapped slightly, and like our goal of the day really is to get her into the Young Riders jersey. And yeah, so I used my last bit of energy to get her up this steep climb back to the front group, and then I said, Mikayla, you've got to do the rest on your own. But Elise was there, and then we pulled into the gravel sector, and I got dropped there because that was like my last effort for Mikayla, and it was Elise and Marlin in the front group, and I don't really know what happened there, so I'm going to pass you over to Elise to recount the rest of the end of the stage.
So I was with Mickey for a while, and we really pushed in this gravel section to drop Lian, the other like contender for the white jersey, and it was good because Mickey like really she pushed really hard, and she could go away with the first group almost, I think. So yeah, it was I think it was really a teamwork, and it was amazing that she could finish the work.
Yeah, so I think Annemiek was off the front alone, and then maybe Anna van der Breggen was chasing alone behind that, and then Mikayla was in a group. I'm not actually completely certain, but then Elise was in a group with Elise Longa-Borghini, who was holding the pink jersey at the time. And what was that like? Because she had no teammates at the front.
Yeah, she had no teammates, so she was the only one who had to chase, because I was also with Amanda Spratt and Soraya Paladin, and both they had like teammates in the front. And she was pretty angry to chase alone, but I mean, that's the game, and it was funny to sit on the wheel.
Yeah, cycling is savage sometimes, isn't it? Because, you know, from the end of the gravel sector, which was crazy, by the way, it wasn't just like your average Strada Bianche gravel sector, which, okay, it's a bit dusty, and there are some sectors in Strada Bianche where there's a bit of sand and you might risk going into it. This was mental. All of it was just such deep gravel that if you went off one tiny track, then you're going to lose your wheel and then you're going to stop. I actually got hit by the commissaire's car. But I managed to just jump off my bike. So all this crazy stuff happens. But anyway, I think Mikayla ended up taking 7th overall and Elise was 11th. So yeah, Mikayla moved into the white Young Riders jersey, and I think she's got a pretty big gap, but we haven't actually got the results, like the official results yet. But yeah, she's in the jersey. Emma also had an awesome day. She was so good on the climbs. And did you take both the sprints, Emma?
The second one, there were one in...
Oh, there was one away, so you were second. So she was first in the first sprint and then second, because we wanted to make sure that, again, Liana Lippert didn't take the seconds, so that we could get Mickey into the jersey and try and get as far ahead. So yeah, it was a pretty cool day, and it was a pretty savage day. 85 miles, 130k, and we go again tomorrow. 140k again, just constantly rolling.
Hello, welcome to the end of stage 3 of the Giro Rosa. Oh, we're tired. Still got 6 days to go and we're tired. Today was just one of those, days. I'm sure if I'd have kept an audio diary during the race, I could have probably told you so many really cool, interesting things that went through my head, and crazy shit that happened in the race, and times when we all nearly flew off cliffs. And oh yeah, Emma had a pretty scary puncture. She got boshed off the road by one of the FDJ girls. Sorry, I'm going to name and shame. Just hit a massive rock. And so then her tyre/wheel went bang. And it's one of those really scary moments where, I mean, you don't know if the wheel's just going to fall apart because it's such a hard hit. But actually, it's pretty scary the whole time, because now that we're heading down towards Rome tomorrow. We're finishing in Tivoli tomorrow. We finished in Assisi today. We had 140 kilometres. The further south you go, the worse the roads get. Oh my gosh, all the time you're just like, holes, holes. But I mean, there's no point in even shouting because the roads are just so bad. There's just, absolutely savage holes that you could just sink your wheel in everywhere. The bunch was definitely a bit tired from yesterday's savage outing. And also there was a few changes today because, it's just like, welcome to the Giro. They change everything at the last minute. This morning we found out that the GPM, so the Queen of the Mountains, and the sprint points were both cancelled because of roadworks, and that the finish was moved because of roadworks, but we didn't even know where the finish was. It was in the same town and it was up a climb, but we didn't know exactly what it would be like. So we only found out 90 kilometres in from RDS when, the Swannies got to the finish, what the finish was actually like. And then I went back to the car and had a chat with the DS and he showed me some pictures. And it didn't change it much, but it's just like, this is supposed to be the premier race on the women's calendar, and the organisation is just a bit of a shit show, and we can't even manage any live coverage. And it's just a joke because last year there was actually really, really good coverage. There was like 3 hours of live coverage or something like that every day. You could watch a big chunk of the stages live every day. And I've heard that this year the organisation that were providing the pictures were all, you ready to do the live coverage? And it was actually the organisers that said no to it. So it's so frustrating. I haven't actually seen the live coverage because I've been a bit busy racing, but I've been told that it's basically the last 45 minutes. And yesterday's stage, the last 45 minutes was just Annemiek off the front, which, okay, it's nice to watch, but it doesn't show how exciting and dynamic the stage was if you just watch the last 45 minutes. There's so much that happens in a race. Anyway, moan. It's just frustrating because we want to push the sport forward and all this stuff. And, tomorrow we've got this 170 kilometre stage, and actually we've got 12 kilometres of neutral as well. So it's actually 182 kilometres. And, there are some voices in the peloton that say we have to have longer stages, longer is better, blah, blah, blah. But I don't agree. I mean, I'm not saying we should have really short races, but I don't think that giving us a 182 kilometre stage is the answer. If we want to push for equality, let's just get some live coverage first, because what's the point in doing a really long stage if the people don't even know about it and you can't access it? And I can't, even somebody who's riding in the race, I can't even get the results. We didn't even get the communique until about 2 hours after the race. So my husband's looking on Twitter to find out what's happened in the race. And, so one person's tweeted one top 3, the UCI Women's World Tour have tweeted another top 3. Like, what day and age are we living in that you have to watch a women's race on Twitter? It's pretty ridiculous. Anyway, sorry for that aside. I guess that was the most interesting thing that happened today, apart from Emma's puncture. That was pretty exciting. Oh, I'll tell you what happened in the finish. Marianne Vos, as Taylor Wells put it last year, shot out of a cannon to win the stage up this really steep climb. Our goal of the day was to keep Mikayla up as high as possible and keep her in the white Young Riders jersey, which we did. I think she was 12th on the stage, which, yeah, it'd be nice to take a top 10. But she's kind of more of a slow burner, really, and this was a punchy 1 to 1.5 minute if you're Marianne Vos climb, 3.5 minutes if you're me and Emma. Well, I better get to bed because we've got 182 kilometres to do tomorrow. Thank the Lord we've got a tailwind, because otherwise it would be pretty boring.
Hello, my name is Emma Norsgaard and I will do the interview today. So I'm having Lizzy Banks on the line for an interview.
I'm not on the line, I'm in the bed next to her, but whatever.
But it sounded pretty cool. So Lizzy, how did the stage go today?
Well, the organisation is crazy. We got like 3 or 4 communiques from the organisation, and we got one that said the stage time had moved, and then another one that said the stage time had moved, and the stage start time moved so many times that Sunweb actually ended up being late to the start, and that never happens in a bike race. They were 5 minutes late to the start and they thought they were 10 minutes early. And then at the beginning, it was kind of flat and slow, wasn't it? And I was just chilling, having my second breakfast at the back of the bunch. We'd looked at the course and we kind of said, well, if we're going to attack, we need to go for a long one, somewhere between 60 and 90 Ks to go. And about 95 Ks to go, went for an attack, went out, nobody came, and I was like, oh my God. The bunch stopped, and I was like, well, I better keep going. But then they started chasing, and then it was like coming back and not coming back, and then finally they caught me, and I was like, oh, thank God, because I didn't really want to be on my own for 100 kilometres. And then we went up a climb, and then we went down a climb, and then as we came down the climb, you always get this kind of momentum that you get when you come from behind, and the front of the bunch stops, and then the back of the bunch is coming back as you come to the bottom of the climb. And I just used that momentum to go around the bunch with a lot of speed, and I attacked again, and I was like, oh, this is a really good attack. And then I thought, I'm on my own again. And this was 86 or 87 kilometres to go. And the thing is, the bunch, it was like a really good attack. So the bunch just stopped. And when it's a good attack, you get a gap immediately. And I knew I had the gap, and I just thought like, oh, really? Am I really going to do this on my own? This is going to be futile, but whatever, I'll just carry on. And actually, it was quite interesting because you were behind, weren't you, getting bottles?
Yeah, so when the attack happened from Lizzy, I was behind getting bottles for all our teammates. And when I came back, our teammate Marlon was...
No, you said you were like, where's Lizzy?
Yeah, I was like, because I needed to give Lizzy a bottle. And I was like, where's Lizzy? And she's like, oh, she's out. And she was actually kind of irritated because she thought that it was a stupid idea to go so early. But to be honest, when Lizzy is having her mindset on something, we know it's gonna happen. So also my next question, Lizzy, is how did you feel in the breakaway? Like, were you sure at any point that this will gonna happen? Like, you were gonna win the stage?
Well, I don't know if I did win the stage. We haven't got that far yet. So I saw that a rider was bridging over, and I looked back and it was someone from Alley. And at first I kind of thought, oh no, Alley, it's probably going to be a rider who's not really that strong. And then the rider came over and it was Eugenia Bujak, and I was like, yes, this is a best rider I could have. She's such a strong rider. We were really well matched. Like, I would say I probably did a bit more pulling than her in the break, but I kind of thought, right, if anybody can make it work in 2, like, me and her can do it. And the last climb was from 135 to 142 kilometres. And I was like, we just have to keep pushing till the top of that climb, because when you're in the breakaway and when you're getting a bit tired, you can really, really quickly lose a lot of time on a climb compared to a bunch. Especially these climbs were like not super steep, so you can really draft a lot in the bunch, and the bunch can go pretty quite quick. And again, on the descent, they can go so quick. Once we got over the top of that climb, I was like pretty certain at that point that we were going to make it. Basically, then I was thinking, right, okay, so it's me or her, how am I going to win this? And I was thinking, should I attack from, like, I didn't want to, I'd just been to Ploue and came second to Lizzie Deignan, and I tasted victory at the Giro last year, and I did not want to come second, and I wasn't prepared to come second. So I was thinking, should I do a long range attack? But really the last kind of 30 kilometers were flat and rolling and downhill, and it's like there just wasn't a good place. But I knew that the finish was gnarly. I knew that there was a steep part, and I knew that on the steep part I would have the advantage. At about 15k to go, I started playing the game, stopping to pull through, and to be honest, I didn't feel great. I definitely pretended a bit more than I should have done. And then I just sat on her wheel from 3k to go and attacked her on the steep part of the climb. So I started attacking on the steep bit. I saw this arch and I thought, thank God there's the arch. I'm going to go through there and turn right. And then I looked down, and on my Garmin, I saw ahead that there was another arch. And then the road started to rise even more. And then there were cobbles, but with massive holes in them. It was 300 meters to this right turn after the second arch. Steep 300 meters on cobbles is just, it feels like it takes a lifetime. And by this point, my legs were just absolutely full of lactate. But once you have the gap, basically I attacked her and she managed to get on my wheel, but I knew that if I just went full gas on the steep bit, I would drop her, and then I would have the physical and mental advantage, because once you're behind and you've been dropped, it's just so hard to come back. So I just gave it everything to line, and then finally with 200 meters to go and it had flattened out, I knew I had the gap and I crossed the line and I won, and it was so good. And I was so happy. But one of the weird things about podiums in Corona times is just that they're so weird. Yeah. And it was because usually kind of people say they give you stuff, or I don't know, you go onto the podium and then they bring you all the stuff. But because it's like DIY podium, pick up everything yourself and then go and do it, it's kind of a bit of a shit show. And we didn't really know what was going on. And then Annemiek went on. Oh, also, we think that Annemiek thought she won the stage, didn't we? Because apparently she crossed the line. She crossed the line in third behind it, but like a minute behind. And apparently she put her arms up. So sorry, Annemiek. To be fair, you're still pretty good. I mean, you still got the pink jersey, so nice one. I couldn't get the pink jersey. Yeah, fair dues. Anyway, so they took Annemiek on for third, and then they took Eugenia on, and then they took me on, but they didn't have us on there at the same time. And then they didn't give me a bottle of Astoria, and I was like, where's my bottle of Astoria? If I'm going to win a stage, I want to spray the bottle. Anyway, so I just went behind the stage and went to pick up the bottle, and they're like, no, this is not for you, this is for Annemiek. And I was like, look, she's had enough. I mean, obviously she didn't mind because she'd already sprayed one, and I was like, look, I'm spraying a bottle. Sorry, Annemiek, but you can spray one tomorrow. Also, Annemiek, if you're listening, I am sorry if you wanted to spray that bottle, but I really, really wanted to spray that bottle. Anyway, so then I went back, and then, the crowd was yelling, and I sprayed it, and it was really cool. And I can now add it to the collection. Welcome to Stage 5, another crazy day at the Giro. So today we were in Terracina, which is on the west. Forgotten east and west because I'm so tired. On the west coast of Italy, halfway between Rome and Naples. It was going to be a sprint. We hoped that Emma would be there, and she'd been climbing really, really well in the first few days of the tour. So we fully believed she could be there, and also in La Course as well. She was climbing so well. So we were like, this is Emma's day. Yeah, she's going to be there, and she's so strong at the moment. But unfortunately, Emma has had a problem with back pain over the last few days, which is something we've actually all suffered with, because the first hotel which we stayed at for the first couple of nights of the race, and also for a few days before the race, we were all getting back pain because the beds were so bad. It's just crazy that we're supposedly some of the best people in the world in our sport, and we're sleeping in places where the beds are so bad that they actually cause injuries. Again, last night we had another hotel with absolutely terrible beds. You can just feel the springs. Thankfully, this one that we've got tonight that I'm lying on right now feels a little bit softer. But unfortunately, Emma had been really suffering with back pain, and it got to the point where she woke up a couple of times in the night, and this morning she woke up and could barely walk. So she took some painkillers, just some paracetamol, ibuprofen, and, had some heat patches on her back and stuff. But in the race today, she just simply wasn't able to get the power out, and she's here now. How do you feel, Emma? It must be pretty gutting, because, this is a big goal, right?
Yeah, it's just been a really bad day for me. Not for the team. The team has done great once again. But for me, it was this stage was really a stage where I have been looking forward for, and I thought that I could do a great result, and then it's just really sad that my body don't work.
It's really frustrating. It's your body's letting you down because of the situation in which we're racing. So I'm sorry for you, Emma, but if you're okay tomorrow, it could be another day for you tomorrow.
If I'm okay tomorrow, I'm gonna smash it, because I have been in the gruppetto today, chilling.
For the first, by the way, must I say, I'm gonna say this is the first time she's even been dropped this week, which is pretty amazing for a sprinter.
So today was an easy day for me, so tomorrow I'm gonna smash it if my back's allowed it.
Yeah, so what happened in the race, it was 110k. Only 110k today, down from 180 yesterday. It was pretty full gas from the start. That's the thing. It was 2 hours 50 and it was just non-stop the whole day. The whole day was full gas, really exciting. And that's the thing, when you have these shorter stages, they're really exciting. And that's why I don't think that we need longer stages. Anyway, I've already said enough about that. So the first climb, the kind of the long climb that was 15k, it went pretty hard because there are teams who, like CCC with Marianne Vos and Lotto Soudal with Lotte Kopecky, who have sprinters who can make it over the climbs, but wanted to drop other sprinters, the likes of Jolien Dorf from Boels-Dolmans and Kirsten Wild from Ceratizit WNT. So there was a pace set up there, a hard pace set up there by CCC, so that we would ideally, for them, drop those sprinters and keep their sprinters. Which is what happened. So it was a smaller group of about 40, I think, and then those sprinters just never got back on. Sorry, Emma. And then there was a long descent and then a bit of flat and then a super, super sharp punchy climb, and then kind of all hell broke loose there, and then it was lined out on the descent, and unfortunately my teammate crashed, and then that caused a split in the bunch. So then when we got to the bottom, me and my teammate Marlen and Elise, we TTT'd that group back to the front group so that Elise didn't lose time on GC. And then, then Elisa Longo Borghini was off the front near the end, but then she got chased down, obviously. And Marianne Vos took her 210th or something win. Oh, isn't that crazy how good she is?
La melodia in vocale di ritornerò mi vocale di ritornerò.
So today was stage 6. It was only 95 kilometres in the end today, because there was a slight change to the route because of a collapsed bridge. So transfer stage, but that actually equals in the Giro fast and furious and so unrelenting that you're never going to get a moment's break. So I'm here with Mikayla, who is 5th on GC, which is really cool, and in the White Young Riders jersey. And so we've held the White Young Riders jersey in the team since the beginning. Emma had it after the TTT, and then it's just been on Mikayla's shoulders since. So Mickey, tell us what happened in the stage today.
Well, today was total carnage. It started off with 20 kilometres on the most hardcore roads I've ever ridden on. It was just pothole after pothole, and it just felt like I was in this crazy race and girls were flying everywhere. And it was so hard.
And our teammate Emma had to have a bike change, and I thought, oh my god, she is never going to get back on, because we're flying along at 50k an hour and there's just holes everywhere, and if she's in the convoy she's going to die.
I know, she had to do a whole section behind the car on the bumper, and she wouldn't be able to see anything, which is totally crazy. But yeah. Anyways, after that crazy section, the course change, and it got a lot more climby, and but yeah, after the Carnage roads, the parkour changed and it was super hilly, and that was quite challenging. Unfortunately, my bike ended up having a few, I don't know if it was an issue after that part, but I had this really annoying creak for the rest of the stage. So it was just creak, creak, creak for the last 2 hours of a race. So I think I was really annoying everyone around me.
No, it was perfect. Her bottom bracket started creaking. And for me, it was so great. I never had to say, Mickey, you on my wheel? And she never had to say I'm here, because I could just hear it going. So thanks very much. Mechanics, please don't fix her bottom bracket.
We had a 20k descent into the finish, which was just so fast, and we were flying downhill.
At 100k an hour.
I know, Lizzie said, we're going 100k's an hour. I'm just like, holy moly, this is so fast. I don't really want to be thinking about how quick I'm actually going.
Thomas, can I just not chat into the radio when I'm going 100k's an hour on the downhill, please? Thanks very much.
Yes, please. Coming into the finish, no one really knew what was happening, and that was, once again, totally crazy. We ended up racing across some cobblestones, which just came out of the middle of nowhere, which was crazy.
It was crazy. We knew that there was this tight turn with 3k to go, and we went round it, and suddenly there was just like crazy cobblestones with giant holes in them, and we're like, what the this was not in the race book, but whatever.
Yeah, then anyways, we eventually got to the finish, and it was a reduced bunch sprint, and Elise was right up there in the top group, and we all made it back safely, thank goodness. So,
you're still in white?
Yeah, I'm still in white, which is so exciting. I still can't quite believe how the past 6 days have been going, and now we've only got four more days?
3 more days.
Oh, 3 more days. Easy.
Yes, 1 day. And what's the gap on your nearest rival?
My nearest rival, well, I've got a couple of girls just 20 seconds behind on overall GC, and I'm 1 minute from the girl in front of me, so I'm obviously going to be thinking about that. And then in terms of white young rider, I've got a 4-minute advantage, which is a nice buffer, but I'm still keen to try and hold my top 5 overall.
I love how she says, I've got a couple of girls who are 20 seconds behind me. That's Elise Longo-Borghini, and I'm not sure who's the next rider behind you, but yeah, Elise Longo-Borghini, 20 seconds behind. Just a couple of girls.
Just a rider, you know.
Just a couple of world-class riders who've been doing this for a really long time. Stage 7 of the Giro d'Italia, and a bit of a tough one today because I'm just going to ruin the surprise of what happened in the stage, because you probably already know anyway. But yeah, in the end of the stage there was a really big crash. Well, I think there were about 30 riders in the front group, which Mikayla and I were in. We were coming into the finish. It was a straight road, and then there was I think about 250 metres to go, there's a sharp right-hand turn into the finish, and just before the turn, I was on the left. There was a big crash on the left. I was really fortunate to be okay. But Annemiek, who was obviously wearing the pink jersey, went down really hard right in front of me. Amanda Spratt flew, and her bike flew, and Voss went down really hard. And then Erika Magnaldi from WNT slid in front of me, and we were going so fast. You know, we were going full gas into the sprint finish. And it's one of those moments where your life just flashes before your eyes, because I mean I've had some really bad crashes in the past. When you're going 45k's an hour, more even, it's like into this crash, and it was the side of the road, and there was a really big, like, tall paving slab on the side, curbstone on the side of the road, and that's what I saw Annemiek crash into. And I was basically doing an endo almost, skidding on my front wheel kind of skidding against the curbstone, and then at the same time this WNT rider started sliding in front of me, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm just going to go flying over here, and I'm going to hit my head on the curbstone, and I'm going to have a concussion, and blah 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 blah. And somehow I held it, and I stopped, and thankfully my teammate Mikayla was okay as well. But in that moment, it's just, you're seeing your competitors just lying on the floor, and we've just had an update, or Mitchelton have just put out an update to say Annemiek broke her wrist, which it was pretty obvious anyway, because she was holding it limp as she came across the line, and Amanda Spratt has a shoulder injury and a concussion, so she's out of the Giro as well. We thought maybe Sparty had a broken collarbone, but it's not broken, but perhaps she's done the ligaments in her shoulder instead. I don't know, that's just speculation. Marianne Vos was okay. She came across the line. I was fine, so then I got my bike together and, rode across the line, and I was just, met my teammate, Mikayla, made sure she was okay, and then Vos rolled in and she was just shaking, from all the adrenaline and the shock from the crash. It's just, really horrible. And to be honest, when I heard that Annemiek and Amanda Spratt had come across the line, I was really grateful that they were walking, because it had been, when you see a crash like that and it's that fast and they go head first. Annemiek hit the pavement with her head. Really not nice. It's really, really concerning. And your first thought is just, you're glad that they're, able to get back on the bike at all. So the stage was really marred by that, but it was just so fast all day and holes everywhere. And I'm amazed there haven't been more crashes. Through the town by the finish line at the bottom, there's just these crazy cobbled pavers. So, I mean, if you imagine like a flagstone, like a big paving stone, and then cobbles, and then just holes everywhere and bikes flying everywhere. One girl kind of landed on my handlebars, and then another girl crashed into me on the side. I stayed upright, but her front wheel like skidded down my leg. So at the end of the stage, I had, tire marks all down my right leg, and then her bike hit the back of my bike, and thankfully I held it upright. But it was just, I mean, the roads here are a disgrace, and I really, in my opinion, we should not be racing on these roads, because it is so dangerous. I'm amazed that we've not had more punctures. I mean, the roads haven't even been brushed. Like, there's corners that are just covered in glass. There was one corner within 3k to go where you go around a corner and there's just like this bit of concrete in the road, and there's nobody to say, yeah, you shouldn't be going on this bit of concrete. Or the other day in a race, there was actually just like this massive concrete barrier in the middle of the road, and nothing to say, nobody there to warn you, or I don't know. It's just, I just really feel like the level of safety here is very poor, and rider safety is not a priority. And if it was a men's race, the men would probably complain and stop, but I mean, we can't do that. Like, we're grateful to even have these races, but when the men's Giro d'Italia comes to this part of Italy, they probably resurface the whole roads, and then we're just racing on this. I mean, it's an absolute shit show. Like, there's really nothing else to say but the fact that it's an absolute shit show. Like, these roads are diabolical. Yeah, anyway, so got the puncture, came back, then came into the final climb, and I was in a really shit position. And then I came past Elise, my teammate, who, it turns out, Mikayla, who's our lead GC rider, because she's in the young riders jersey, she dropped her chain at the bottom of the climb, again, probably because the holes were so bad. And so then Elise had really helped her to get back on, and then in helping Mickey get back on, she'd blown herself up. And then I came past Elise and said, like, come on, Elise, come on, because we needed the two of us again for the team classification. But Elise had just completely blown. So then I just had to go. And at this point, like, all the big dog climbers were in a front group, and I was in a second group, and Lizzy Banks was there. Thank God she pulled us back, because I couldn't take a turn. I mean, I was just so smoked after my effort I'd done from the puncture to get back on. And then so then made it back to the front group on the top of the climb. So I was back with Mickey again and could help her a little bit in the final. And then just in the final, I'd literally just said to her, come with me on the left, I'll take you up on the left. And I would like spotted this gap, and then bang, on the left hand side this crash happened. But yeah, thankfully.
We're just on the way to the start of stage 8, and Emma just got a message from her grandpa. Can you read it to us, Emma?
Yes. Yeah, my grandpa just texted, hey Emma, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud you're still in the race. I would not have counted on you, Grandpa.
Now that is the kind of belief we need to finish this Giro. A quick update from the injuries from yesterday. We heard officially last night that Annemiek has a broken wrist, and so she'll be flying home today and then getting an appointment to look at it and probably having surgery tomorrow. And
Amanda Spratt is also out with a shoulder injury, not a broken collarbone, but probable ligament damage, I guess, and a concussion. So that's really, really shit for Mitchelton Scott. I'm really gutted for them. It's just so horrible to see the leader go out like that. And I wonder what will happen now, because for sure, if you're Kasia Niewiadoma, you don't want to go in pink because the leader has crashed out of the race. But the organisers will want someone to wear pink. So, you know, if you're Kasia, you probably want to say, no, I don't want to wear it out of respect for Annemiek. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. So yeah, we're just on the start. I'm on the way to the start now, and I'm just like psyching myself up to get up this steep ass climb at the end of the stage. It's 3k at 12%. So it's going to be quite savage. Wish me luck. Right, Neve.
Yeah.
Last day of the Giro.
It's the last day already. It's flown by. What do you mean?
It's weird, isn't it? Like, at the beginning it was going really slowly, and now it's day 9 and we're like, where did it go?
Yeah, it is a bit like that, really. I'm kind of thinking,
please, can we have some more stages?
Yeah, throw me in for another 9 more days.
Yeah, why don't we just do 21 like the boys?
Yeah, rest day tomorrow. We'll be fresh and ready to go by Monday.
Yeah, well, the rest of us have got we've got to be fresh by Thursday because we've got Worlds TT.
This is true.
And then Worlds Road Race Saturday. How was yesterday for you? Tell us the story.
Yesterday was a day of many a lesson for me. Yeah, those crosswinds hit me pretty hard.
But you made the front echelon,
and then I dropped from the front echelon.
You got blown out the arse in the front echelon into my echelon.
Yep, into Lizzy's echelon, and then we went pretty
saved
hard.
Mikayla's ass, got her back to the front echelon.
Yep.
And then you got blown out the second echelon.
Blown from that one. But managed to claw my way back for the hill.
In the third echelon was like Ashleigh Moolman.
Exactly.
The other half of CCC as well.
Too many big names there, yeah. I wasn't too worried. And we could see you guys, so I just let them do the work, pull me back, and then I was there to help Lizzy and Mikayla in the finale.
And then what happened? So I pulled you guys into the final, I don't know where you were, I pulled Mickey into the final climb. And then what happened on the final climb for you? Because you had a pretty good day yesterday. Seeing as this is your third World Tour race?
Yes, fourth, yeah. So yeah, actually I think I was on your wheel. I don't know if you heard me shouting, but
I don't know. I had Mickey and I was like,
on Mickey's wheel. I mean,
oh yeah. I knew I had Mickey on my wheel, and I was like, that was my main problem. Yeah. But if you were on Mickey's wheel, that was good.
Yeah, and so Lizzy did a monster pull in the first 200 meters of the climb. Just you were ripping it, and then managed to find my way through. And I had Thomas on the radio telling me, just stay with Mickey as long as you can. So I dug pretty deep there, just trying to hold on. I was pretty stuffed already, to be honest, but I think everyone was stuffed, yeah. And I saw Mickey just fly up the road ahead of me, and there was not much I could do but just watch her float away.
Where did you come?
I think just outside top 10, 11th I was in the end.
Yeah, with some pretty big dogs behind you, hey?
Yeah.
So what's that like then?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Fighting your way up the climb. I think I was with Ashleigh Moolman for most of it.
They dropped her at the end. Sorry, Ashleigh.
Yeah, sorry, Ashleigh. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I haven't had many experiences of being up there with those girls, and being up with them is just like a huge confidence boost for me, if anything, just knowing that I can be there with the top girls.
Nice one. Mickey, how are you feeling? Last day, you're in 5th on GC. Podium maybe out of reach, or what do you think? Because it's about 30 seconds or so.
It's all super close, so anything can happen today, and I'm super motivated to really give it my all, and it's the last day, so I might as well die trying out there.
Yeah, at the moment Anna van der Breggen is in pink.
Kasia Niewiadoma is about 1:10 behind. Then Elise is, I think, 2:23. Then Sile is 2:25 something. She's like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 seconds behind Elise, but she's within bonus seconds of Elise. And then Mickey's at 2:50-ish. So to get Mickey on the podium would be like a pretty hard task. But I still think it's going to be a really interesting day because Trek are going to want a breakaway to mop up all the bonus seconds. Sile wants to attack to get the bonus seconds. We it would be great for us if Elise went in the breakaway, and if she gained the minute in the breakaway so that we then won the team classification. I think for Kasia, she'll just want to defend second. Of course, Anna wants to defend first. But there could be crosswinds again. We're doing a circuit where it's just up a climb and then down a climb. But then going up the climb, you have it's really exposed. So there's really possibility for crosswinds. It doesn't look too windy today, but usually the wind picks up during the day. So it's really hard to know, and you just have to keep your eyes open the whole day. But there's going to be some really, really interesting dynamics today. And usually on the last day of a tour, there's a lot of people who haven't got anything out of the tour. So it's just like hell for leather because everybody wants to get something and it's their last chance. I think it's going to be another hard day in the office, but I'm hoping we haven't had our team meeting yet, so maybe our director will say something else, but I'm hoping that a breakaway goes, Elise goes in it, and then me and Neve are in the peloton to protect Mickey, because that would really calm things down in the peloton as well, because there's a tricky descent, and if there's a break up the road, then it would calm the peloton on the tricky descent. So we don't want to take any risks today because there's too much at stake. Thankfully Mickey's got 5 minutes on the next rider in the U23 competition, so in terms of that it's pretty safe, knock on wood. Something would have to go really, really badly wrong, like yesterday, to lose that, because even if something happened to Mickey, the rest of us would just pull back and we'd just tow her back. But anything can happen, and of course if that did happen, she would lose the GC place, but then at least you'd still have the young rider jersey.
I'm just checking in for my final few words. I can never just give one word. I am in my hotel in Bologna, where British Cycling will be arriving over the next couple of days for the World Championships that are in Imola. And just been reflecting on a really, really good week, and I'm just so proud of the team and everything we've achieved this week and how we've really pulled together. We came into this tour without Leah Thomas, one of our strongest riders. Our strongest rider, without Clara Koppenberg, who was going to be our GC leader. And then, despite everything, we've managed to come away with so much. I came into it battered and bruised. I'd crashed really hard at the European Championships, and I've actually still got a deep wound in my hip from that. Elise came into it having crashed hard at the European Championships as well, and having sliced her fingers open with a bread knife. We're a disaster-prone team, and then she crashed in the tour a few days in, and her body was just really hating her, and I crashed on the last day. And you just put so much into it, and we've all been away from home for a long time now. I've been away from home for nearly a month, and it's going to be another month at least until I'm back home again. And when it doesn't always come together, it often doesn't come together, and when it does, it's just such a good feeling. So I'm really pretty happy about it. In the end, the podium stayed the same on the final day. Anna van der Breggen took the pink jersey, Kasia Niewiadoma was second, and Elisa Longo-Borghini was in a very tight third place, from Cecilia Uttrup-Ludwig in fourth and Mikayla Harvey in fifth, my teammate, which is really awesome. Another thing actually is that something that I've found really surprising is after the break for the coronavirus quarantine period and, the worldwide lockdown, it's been really interesting to see how some riders have come out of that. You know, some riders have obviously fared really well and kind of ability to train for 4 months without interruptions for racing, crashing, all these little things that fatigue you and traveling and stuff, it all takes it out of you. Anyway, yeah, so some riders have like obviously really fared well from that, and some riders have really not fared well. You know, riders that you would expect to be really strong are just not performing at the level that they should be. And it's interesting. I wonder whether it's overtraining or undertraining, because both can really do the same thing. I think, you know, undertraining, it would be surprising if they had lost that much form, because these riders, some of these riders that I'm thinking of, you know, they were really at a very, very high level. And once you get to that level, it's not that hard to maintain it, you know. I mean, obviously I'm not saying what we do is easy, but it's not that hard to maintain a certain level of form. And if you want to get really, really good, then yeah, of course you have to put everything into it, and it is difficult. But I think probably quite a few people have actually overtrained and done more hours than they would have done normally. That slowly has an effect, and then yeah, you kind of don't realize that you don't really understand why you're getting worse, and it's only when you really take a long break that you then start to get better again. So yeah, that's quite interesting, really. And then, yeah, the final thing I want to mention is just about visibility of this race again. And I feel sorry for the organisers, because perhaps they've borne the brunt of the criticism when really we should be putting the criticism on the UCI and saying, look, if you're really saying you want to further women's salaries, if you're saying you want to bring in minimum salaries, which you have, and creating World Tour teams, and then these minimum salaries are rising and rising, then you also have to help us get the coverage out there. You know, if you push for these minimum salaries, but you don't have the coverage, then the teams are just going to break. It's not just the big teams. Okay, some of the big teams will be able to afford it, but it's the lesser teams. It's the continental teams that develop these riders. Teams like my teams, you know. My team takes on unknown riders, develops them, and then keeps them for a few years, and then sends them on to the top dog teams. But if we don't have this visibility, teams like mine won't survive, and then you won't have this ability for riders to come into the sport and then progress to the top level. And I really do feel like this is where the UCI needs to step in, and then they need to be proactive. They need to help out the organisers and say, what can we do? Financial or otherwise, you know, getting the contacts, whatever, in order to be able to, firstly, even have the money to do the coverage. Secondly, get the coverage out there, and, you know, just get the media out there, because the media is crap. And once people know what we're doing and realise what we're doing, then yeah, they really will invest in it, because every time we do have live coverage, the stories are so good that people just want more, but then they get to the next race and they don't see it. And, you know, how many people know that there's a women's Grand Tour going on during the Tour de France? Not that many. I think it's improving, although really we had worse coverage from last year, but generally things are improving. But I really think we need to push, and we need to not be aggressive with how we do it, but also not be complacent, because it's just such an exciting sport, and we've really got so much to give and so much to show the people. And this race this year was a great example. I hope that I've been able to kind of give you a bit of an insight into some of the stories that go on behind the scenes. And hopefully next year you'll be able to watch us live. But until then, over and out.
Well, Lizzy Banks there, more great, insightful, entertaining stuff from her. She'll be putting pressure on us to do a Giro Rosa diary again next year, if she rides it, with it not being a Women's World Tour event. Because the 2 times she's done one, she's won a stage. And she won stage 4 this year, finished 12th overall in the end. But yeah, it obviously brings her luck, doesn't it?
I wish it would bring me a bit more luck, actually. Why am I not winning Giro Rosa stages? I go on this every month.
I think it's maybe not just the diary entries that does it for Lizzy, to be fair. I think it's more, yeah, you know, training and having a professional contract and entering the race, you know, just little details.
I mean, Lizzy obviously co-presents our brother-sister sibling podcast, Service Course. But she, I mean, you know, apart from being a great rider who's having a brilliant season, she is really becoming an important voice in the media. She spoke very eloquently this week about the Giro Rosa. And you had her on Eurosport as well, didn't you, Orla?
Yeah, we had her on the breakaway.
And she was on the BBC today, actually, on World Champs. So, yeah, great seeing her everywhere.
She's such a good talker. She's so eloquent, and she's clearly thought about issues a lot, you know, and she's a very satisfying interviewee for that reason, because she's just using her brain, and it's a lovely interview to have always. And also, she's very skilled at angling the camera so that it doesn't include the drying laundry behind her, as I discovered from her Insta story when she was doing her interview with me. She panned her phone around to show. I'm not sure if it was underwear, Lizzie, or whether it was shorts. I couldn't tell from the picture, but either way, we didn't see it on air, and that's the main thing. She's such a pro.
What a pro! Not required in audio. And Lizzie, if you're listening, as you will be, remember that your future is in audio, not on screen. We want to keep you.
Richard,
we want to keep
in the nicest possible
as part
way.
of the Cycling Podcast.
It belongs on our screens, Lizzie, on the breakaway, on Eurosport.
I can sense Orla. I can sense Orla trying to lure her away to the dark side of television.
Come to mama.
Stick
Come
with
to
the
mama.
Cycling Podcast, Lizzie. You know you've got a good home here. Right, listen, let's wrap things up. You've got dinner guests,
I do.
Orla.
I've been ignoring
Rose,
them for
I'm
last
sure you've
year.
got
Last
good things
hour.
to be doing as well. Listen, we'll speak next month. Thank you very much, Orla.
Thank you both. It's been fun.
Thank you, Rose.
It has. It's been more fun than the women's road race today was. So.
We'll bury that right at the end. Brilliant.